everyone. So I am starting a new vlog for my Mercy Thompson series. So we've got Frostburned. This one here has to do with after an accident in bumper-to-bumper traffic, Mercy and her stepdaughter Jessie can't reach alpha werewolf Adam, or anyone else in the pack for that matter. They've all been abducted. Through their mating bond, all Mercy knows is that Adam is angry and in pain, but she fears his disappearance may be related to the political battle the werewolves have been fighting to gain acceptance from the public, and that he and the pack are in serious danger, outmatched, and on her own, Mercy may be forced to seek assistance from any ally she can get, no matter how unlikely. Now, I got through this one here, and I'm currently listening to this one. So this one here, I thought it was okay. I gave it 4 stars. I will say there were some parts toward maybe the middle or toward the ending where it was a little bit boring. There was a lot of talking. So there were some boring parts while I was listening to it. But I thought it was, it was good. I gave it 4. Like I said, I gave it a 4. It's about 50% in. It was mainly her and Jessie had, in the synopsis, they had a fender bender. The guy in front of her had stopped suddenly, and so she had rammed into him. But she also was having a little bit of an anxiety attack. There was something that set her off, and her instincts had kind of sprung in, like something's going on. So the guy in front of her had stopped suddenly, and then he wanted to take a swing at her, and she actually slammed his ass on the fucking concrete. Good for her. But the fucking dude was drunk. So he ended up getting arrested because of course he's inebriated. And this may sound harsh and people may not like me for it, but I think if you get caught drinking once, no more license. You lose it forever. I think you should lose it forever. If you're that stupid to drink while you're under the influence that you could have possibly killed other people, you should lose your license forever. One and done. That's it. Other people get so many chances. I mean, there's people who drink so much that they have a breathalyzer thing in their car and they have to breathe into it in order to start their car up. And I'm like, man, fuck that. One time, that's it. You're done. You're fucking done. No more license for you. And there may be people out there who will be like, oh, fuck you, blah, 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 and all this other stuff, because there have been people like that. As soon as I say hey, if you're drinking while you're even buzzed, you should get your license taken away. And so many people were like, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, driving is not a right. It's a privilege. It is a privilege. It's not a right. Just because you can get your license doesn't mean that you're good on the road. Just because you managed to pass that fucking road exam doesn't mean that you're actually any good on the road. Because that fucking road exam, especially in the US, is fucking easy. It is easy. You have to be a complete fucking idiot to fail your exam. I've failed the written only for the fact that because they made it where I'm like, that can't be the answer. This is the answer. That can't be the answer. That's too easy. It's almost like they do trick questions. And so I'm like, I will second guess myself and say, no, that can't be the answer. That's too easy of an answer. And then I go and do something else. I'm like, my first instinct was that answer. So I had failed the written a couple times because I kept over analyzing the questions. And so I really needed to not do that because the questions are once you read the handbook, it's easy for you to pass it, But like I said, me, when it comes to tests, I overanalyze everything. So I'm like, I need to not do that. Go with your first answer. Boom, you're done. But as for the driving exam, it's really not that hard. If you practice, you could pass the driving exam and get an exam. It's much easier in the US than it is in Europe. In Europe, someone had told me, I think the woman said she was from Hungary. And she had said, like, to get your license in, like, Europe, it's much harder. You got to know all the parts of a car and all this other stuff. That's basically what she had told me. And I was like, oh, dang, so it's hard to get your license there. And she goes, yeah. She goes, it's much easier in the U.S. And that's the problem, is much easier in the U.S. And so you got a bunch of fucking idiots who don't know what the hell they're doing on the road. Or they memorize the driver's ed book. They just memorize it just to pass the test, and then they don't care about it and anymore. So anyways, as I said, I think if you get caught drinking once, no more license for you. I think it might have people think twice if they know that as soon as they get caught drinking, they're going to lose their license forever. It might make people think twice before they get in that car, because nowadays it's like you've got Uber. There's so many places that have Uber now, that have Lyft. If you're fucking inebriated, take the fucking bus home, or take the Uber home, take a fucking Lyft home. Call up your friend fucking Jerry on the phone and say, hey man, I'm too drunk to drive. Can you pick me up? Any one of those things would do better than being a drunk asshole on the road. So for me, I don't take too lightly to drunk drivers. I don't. You should lose your license as soon as you're caught drinking and driving. They make it too lenient for assholes. So anyways, this guy was drunk and, off his ass. So she had slammed him down onto the, cement, concrete, whatever it was. Good for her. So she tries getting a hold of Adam, and Adam's not picking up. And so she tries calling all these other people, and they're not picking up. So she has a bad feeling. She's like, I got a bad feeling about this. Something's going on. So she manages to get a ride home to her garage with her and Jesse. And she goes into the garage area, and one of the wolves, I think it was Sam. I think his name was not Sam. Ben. Ben's in there, and Ben is like fighting stopping himself from changing. And then he ends up telling her that he was there with Adam when these military guys showed up and ended up kidnapping and taking all of the wolves. And Adam had did this code word where he had said it out loud, and it let Ben know, get the fuck out of here, get to Mercy, And so he had went to her garage, and nobody was there. So Gabriel, the one guy who's been in the books for a little bit, he's been working for Mercy and you could tell in the previous novels, his mother, a Hispanic lady, she had problems with Mercy and some of the others because she did not want her son involved with all that other stuff. She's like, you're getting my son into trouble, and he could get hurt, So she very much was like, I don't want him around you, you're a danger to my son. And so her son, Gabriel, was kind of like, telling her, I'm going to do what I want kind of thing. He's an adult basically at this point. So he was living on his own for a little bit. And so he still works for Mercy. And so he was there. And so Mercy decides to take Jesse and Gabriel to his mother's. And Gabriel was like, oh, hell no. I don't want to go back to my mom. My mom's going to say no, that I can't work for you. And I can't, I can't hang out with Jesse because he likes Jesse. So she goes and takes them there and figures, no one's going to know, Gabriel's family and all that stuff. So he'll be protected. Little does she know that, that's not the case. And so during about 50% in the book, it wrapped up pretty quickly when it came to that one storyline of where Adam was. She was able to connect to him psychically and all that stuff to know that he's being tied up and everything. And they had basically were darted with the silver. And so that kind of gets wrapped up. And then it delves into this other storyline of Morcelia, which is, the vampire queen who didn't like Mercy. And this other storyline, and I don't want to get into that because then I'm spoiling too much of the book. But I'll say like that first storyline I tell you like on the back of here of the synopsis, that wrapped up about 50% in. And then the other 50% it was like this other thing that she's dealing with, this other thing that she's dealing with. And it ended up involving like Gabriel's family, where you had these like Fae, like, and then Tad showed up again. The one character of Tad, I like him. That's Z. It's Z's son. He's half Fae. Tad is half fairy. And he was helping out, looking after Gabriel, Jesse, and Gabriel's family. He was looking out, and so these assassins ended up showing up. So it was a lot of stuff going on in the book, but there really was, I wouldn't say like, even though there was a lot of stuff going on in the storyline, it still kind of bored me in some areas, Like I said, there came a part like toward the rest of the 50% of the book where it started going into these other things, and then another character was like introduced into the story, and knowing what this character is and all that stuff, and then her dealing with that new character and dealing with like more of like Marcelia, and then you had another character that was like kind of like introduced that was, I think it was, who was he working with again? I'm trying to think. I think he was working with Brand, maybe? Like, there's so many characters that end up getting introduced, and I'm like, oh man, who's this character again? I know he was working with somebody, and I think he was a wolf too. I think he was a wolf too. I want to say he was working with Brand, like Samuel's father, but he may not have. Now that I think about it. I liked his character, though. Then you had another character called Wolf, come in. But there was a lot of, like, new characters, or a lot of, like, characters that had come in and that were working with Mercy and stuff. And so there wasn't a lot of Adam in this book. I'd say, like, there was some of his point of view in here. But it was mostly Mercy's point of view. But there was a few times where it was his point of view. So that was going on. And like I said, it was, some parts I thought were kind of boring. Like there was some parts where they were talking with Marcelia and all this other stuff that I was like, kind of like zonking to a little bit. But the rest of it was interesting. It was an interesting story. So this one here was basically dealing with like the Fae, werewolf stuff, werewolf drama. And then there was another plot point that was going on in the book, but I don't want to delve into I don't want to spoil that, because then I feel like I'm spoiling too much of the book. So there was a reason why Adam and his wolf pack were kidnapped. I'll just say that. There was a reason why. And I don't want to delve in too much of it, because then it's like, if you haven't read the book, I'm giving too much away for you. So I try to stick with like what is presented on the back of the synopsis, because then it's like I'm not delving too much in spoilers, So anyways, I gave that one 4 stars. Most of these books are pretty much 4 stars for me. They're not 5. Like I don't, oh my God, I absolutely love the books. There was only one that I would say I've given 6 stars to, that I thought was really well done. The rest of them, I'd say I'm giving them 4. They're good, but they're not, I wouldn't say that they're not great, but they're good, So the next book that I started listening to, this one's Night Broken. So this one has to do with Adam's ex-wife, and I'm like, oh God, I'm like, please do not have a bunch of baby mama drama. I hate baby mama drama. I absolutely hate it in romance books or urban fantasy or whatever it is, I hate that. I just like, oh God, I don't want to hear about baby mama drama. Yeah, it's one of my pet peeves. I hate it. I hate it. So it says, when her mate's ex-wife storms back into their lives, Mercy knows something isn't right. Christy has the furthest thing from good intentions. She wants Adam back, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to get him, including turning the pack against Mercy. Fuck this bitch. Man, fuck this bitch. Mercy isn't about to step down without a fight. Good for you, girl. Fuck her up. Fuck her up. Mercy isn't about to step down without a fight, but there's a more dangerous threat circling. As the bodies start piling up, she must put her personal troubles aside to face a creature with the power to tear her whole world apart. Now, I don't know what that's about, but it sometimes, based on the cover, it kind of gives you little hints, like, why does she have this? What's going on with that, you know? So that there, I'm like, huh, she's got like this dagger thing. What's going on there, you know? Because I know, like, she had that one thing that was kind of like a cane kind of thing. And I don't know if that's the same thing that she got it back, because it was belonging to, like, the Fae. And they ended up taking it back. So I don't know if it's that thing back again, or if this is something different, you know? So we got that one. I'll listen to that one. And then when I'm done with that, I'll move on to this one. So this one here looks interesting. What the fuck is that thing in the back, you know? It kind of looks like something from, like, Ghostbusters. You know? Those, like, devil dogs or whatever they were called. What were those things called again? They were like the Keymaster and the whatever the heck it was. They were like these evil dogs that helped protect from the what the hell was it called again? That character. I forget what the heck the name of it is again. I'd have to watch it again. But this one here says, tensions between the Fae and humans are coming to a head. Ooh, shit. Yeah, because she was in the last book, she was dealing with, like, Fae assassins and all that stuff, so. And when Coyote Shifter Mercy and her alpha werewolf mate Adam are called upon to stop a rampaging troll, that's probably what that is. It's probably a troll. They find themselves with something that could be used to make the Fae back down and forestall out-and-out war. A human child stolen long ago by the Fae. Huh. A human child stolen by the Fae? Wow. Defying the most powerful werewolf in the country, the humans and the Fae, Mercy, Adam, and their pack choose to protect the boy no matter what the cost. But who will protect them from a boy who is fire-touched? Huh. Okay, that sounds interesting. That one sounds interesting. I love the cover, too. Ooh. I wonder if the boy, like, transforms into, like, this beast or something. It says he's human, but I'm like, he could be human, but he could have been affected by something, you know, and it turned him into, like, this thing. You don't know. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to be delving into Night Broken next. When I get done with Night Broken, I will update and tell you what I think about it and go from there. But yeah, I will update you all later. Okay, update. So I finished off Night Broken. I actually put this up to, like, a higher speed for the fact that I do not like books with baby mama drama, and I do not want to read them. So I was like, how much of this shit are we gonna fucking see with this stupid dumb bitch coming back into, you know, Adam and Mercy's life, you know? So this one here has it to where Christy, you know, Adam's ex-wife, who's, you know, human, she got involved with this really bad dude. And so she's like, you know, he smacked me around. I need help and all that stuff. So she's whining on the phone how she needs, you know, Adam and needs his help. And so he's like, you know, at first he's like he doesn't want to deal with her. But Mercy's like convinces him like, no, let's help her. You know, let's see what's going on. And so of course she comes there. Christy comes there and then tries to like, you know, act like Miss Susie homemaker, you know, it's like, oh, well, I made breakfast and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, bitch, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. You're trying to act like that you're just this little innocent victim. You didn't do anything wrong. You know? Oh, I hate women like that are all like, you know, oh, I did nothing wrong. I'm like, sure, honey. So, she was trying to stir some shit up between her and Adam. And so luckily, Adam's smart enough to where he's like, hey, you know, no matter what she does, I'm not getting back with her, you know? He's like, nope, ain't happening. And Mercy, thankfully, had, you know, like had patience, and she was like, you know, like, I'm gonna go and, I'm like, I'd slug the bitch. I'm like, nope, you're getting punched the fuck out, you know? So, Adam and his crew, the wolf pack there, they basically are trying to go out, trying to find this guy. This guy called himself like Juan or something. Juan something, I can't remember the name, I'm bad with names. But, he's almost essentially a god when you look at it, like, because when I was reading it, I was like, well, damn, like he's like he ended up being like some kind of supernatural, and he's like made of almost like fire or something, and I'm just like, how the fuck are you gonna kill that, you know? So we had a bit of like her dealing with Christy and all of the bullshit that goes on along with that. Then they're trying to find the guy who she got involved with, which turned out to be like the supernatural thing. And then she's dealing with Coyote, who is like this spirit thingy. I don't know how to pronounce, like, properly explain what he is, you know? It's like he's like this supernatural being, you know? So she's dealing with Coyote again, and she went and was dealing with this Fae that was, I think his name was Alistar, whatever it is, dealing with that. You know, with this series, it's like the more I delve into it, the more I'm like, it's so complex. It's hard to like explain, you know? It's hard to explain without giving away too much stuff, you know? She's dealing with this Fae that came to look for like the walking stick that she had for the longest time, and she had basically told the Fae that I don't have it anymore, Coyote has it. And so he's like, well, you need to get it back from this Coyote person. And so now she's like, how do I get in touch with Coyote? He kind of comes and go when he wants, you know? And then she comes across this individual that was in jail named Greg, but he's like goes by many names. And come to find out, like, I guess you'd say she's sort of like related to him. They're almost essentially like brother and sister, because he's like a coyote shifter. And so he ends up breaking out of prison to go and help her, because he keeps seeing visions and stuff. So he decides to help her. And I'm just like, it was a lot going on. Thankfully, the drama that was going on with Christy, like her stupid ass and the shit that she was doing, wasn't a lot, but it was enough to where it was annoying. And so I'm like, oh God, let's get back past these chapters of like her being a stupid bitch. And I'm like, let's get on to like the other stuff going on. So luckily there was other stuff going on in the book where, of course, you know, Mercy basically proves herself again to be a badass, you know. And so she had, you know, was fighting different stuff and using like her powers and all that. And then she had like Coyote helping her a little bit too. So she got, you know, fucked up again. She got fucked up again in another book where before when she was dealing with like the river monsters and stuff in the previous books, she had broke her leg, and in this one here she had like burns to her and all that stuff, so she had got like messed up. But yeah, I was trying to get through this one quick because I was like, I don't want to deal with this baby mama drama, you know. And Jessie, who I like Jessie. Jessie's like, she doesn't want to deal with her own mother, you know, like she has a love-hate relationship with her mom, you know, because her mom is very much a selfish person. And Christy definitely reminded me of like everybody kind of like goes and uses the term narcissist, but you don't actually fucking know who a narcissist is until you meet them. Okay, not everybody's a narcissist. A lot of people have narcissistic tendencies but are not narcissists, you know. Narcissists, there's different types. Like this one here, I would say Christy very much was like more of a vulnerable narcissist where they blame everyone else around them for their problems, you know. She very much did that, tried to play victim, you know, tried to get the wolf pack kind of like on her side. And narcissists have a way of manipulating others around them, you know. As someone who's known at least a couple of people who have narcissistic tendencies, I wouldn't fully fledge them as like narcissists, but definitely narcissistic tendencies. If you read about narcissists, you can pick up different things that they do. And one of the things they do is they try to play victim and act like that everyone else around them is to blame for their problems. And they don't want to admit at fault and things like that. So that's basically was her. She was trying to manipulate people around her and get like the wolf pack to like her more than Mercy, because Mercy already has problems with the wolf pack because she's a coyote shifter and she's not werewolf, so they kind of, you know, are not all on board with that. But that's, you know, Adam's mate right there. So, you know, so her dealing with that, you know, and then dealing with like these other things that are going on with like her dealing with the Fae, having to get this, you know, the staff back, you know, that walking stick back, that wanted to like hang out with Mercy all the time. And then dealing with this creature that basically shot out fire and stuff, you know, and burn you, and would turn kind of like people into like dogs and stuff, like to like do his bidding, and just weird. So it was definitely weird. But it was an interesting, you know, it was interesting because it's basically like, you know, I'd say it's repetitive in a way of where I know at the end Mercy's gonna like help out, she always does, and then something's gonna happen to her, you know, and she's gonna heal, you know. So it's a little repetitive, I'd say, sometimes, you know, when it comes to like, I know I'm like, oh, she's gonna go and try to help again, because that's what she does, and then she's gonna get injured, and then she's gonna be in a hospital, and then she's gonna heal. But one thing like Adam had said to her, and I was like, this is totally true. Adam had said like, Christy is very much like, she doesn't know how to be on her own, and she very much needs other people to take care of her, where, you know, and it'll be like basically to the detriment of other people, you know, where Mercy very much is like self-sufficient, and she will go and be the one that get injured to try to protect others, you know. So she's basically the complete opposite of what Christy is. So so yeah, I was like, you know, very apt assessment, Adam, very apt assessment. That is Mercy. Mercy will risk life and limb if it means protecting others. to where Christy's like the complete opposite. She will let others get her if it means her being protected. So that's why her and Adam didn't work out. So Adam needs a woman who's strong by his side, and then he essentially has that with Mercy. So, but yeah, anyways, I did like it. I give it 4. Like, pretty basically all of these books have been 4s for me, with the exception of, was it Iron Kiss? That one was a 6-star for me. All the rest of them have been pretty much like 4s for me. They're good, you know, they're good, but I would say like they're not great, you know. And there was, you know, some parts that were kind of like a little like, I don't care kind of thing, you know. I was like, let's get to it. But yeah, you know, it was good. It was a good audiobook. But I did, like I said, I did speed it up because I was like, I don't give a shit about Christy. And then luckily, luckily, it seems like Christy's going to be like, you know, because Adam pretty much like banned her from the hospital because she had come to the hospital when Mercy was like still kind of like unconscious and was like, I wish you would die. And I'm like, fuck you, bitch. So, Mercy kind of like had gotten back to her, you know, had turned Christy's hair blue. Obviously, she managed to do something to where she had put obviously something blue in Christy's shampoo. It turned her hair blue. So Christy had to go and dye her hair black. And I was like, I'm sorry, that's what you deserve, bitch. That's what you deserve. So yeah, that was funny. So yeah, I'm done with this one. I'm moving on to the next one. So Fire Touched is the next one. So this one here has to do with a gifted boy. They have to deal with a rampaging troll. And they're dealing with some boy who has like this, a child that was stolen long ago by the Fae. So that is going to be interesting because Mercy very much is, she's very motherly, a protector. She likes kids, you know, so this will be interesting. I love this cover. That cover is so fucking cool. That's such a badass cover. I love that. That's so cool in the background. Yeah. I love these covers. These covers are all really cool looking, you know? So yeah, I'm going to move on to this audiobook. And then when I'm done with that, that'll be the end of this. So I will go and update you all later. Okay. This is the end of this vlog. If you hear a fan in the background, it's warm in my living room. So, and I don't have anywhere else I can film right now. So I finished off Fire Touch. This creature in the back actually, the spelling is Joel, like Joel, but the narrator kept saying Hoel. So I'm like, is that correct? Is his name actually Hoel? Because my husband, he knows a man that the spelling is Jamie, but he goes by Jaime. So his name is Jaime. So the J is, you know, it's like Jose, you know. So Hoel is a character in the last book that got transformed into like one of these beasts. And so he's still a beast. He's been trying to be human, but he's not human for that long. And then he's a beast, and it's like he's all cracked, and he's like lava. He's like this lava beast. On the inside, he burns like lava. And so her and the other wolf pack go to this bridge, and there's a troll there. And so they really don't want to kill the troll, but they have no choice. So they end up killing the troll. And who helps them is this boy. And this boy is named Aiden. And come to find out, he actually escaped with Z and Tad from the fairy world. The Fey world. He managed to get out of the Fey world. And he's been there for many years. And he's a human boy. But because he's been there for how many years, he ended up developing powers. And so he has this power where he can control, Hoel. He can control Hoel. And manages to make it to where he's more human. So he was able to control the monster. And so he basically wants, Aiden basically wants Mercy and the rest of them to protect him, because he's like, I don't want to go back to the Fey world. He goes, I want to be out here. And so they manage to protect him. And so throughout the book, it's them dealing with, Aiden's powers and all this different stuff, and him learning about the real world and all that stuff, like being out and, everything, because the Fey world obviously is very different, and learning more about different things that he doesn't know about. And so you come to find out that there's Feys who want to start a war because they don't like humans, and they want to basically kill off all the humans. And there's other Fey like Z and some of these other ones who don't want to do that. So now it's basically them fighting with each other. So it's Feys fighting against Feys to try to stop this war from happening. And so they end up, like, toward the end of the book, they end up going into, like, the Fey world and stuff like that, because they're looking for this artifact that'll help, And it was an interesting book. There was a lot of talking in this one. This one had a lot of talking. Had some action at the beginning, and then a lot of talk, like, throughout most of the book. And then toward the end, there was action too. So it was fine. I gave it 4. But I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break from this series because I'm getting a little burned out with it. So I decided, because it's June right now, I'm not going to film a Patricia Briggs vlog for July. I'll film something else. It'll be a different vlog. And then in August, I'll film another Patricia Briggs vlog that'll continue on with this series. And go from there. And then I'm just going to keep doing that, like every other month, Patricia Briggs, until I finish off the Patricia Briggs series, this Mercy Thompson series, till I finish it off. And then I'll eventually go into Alpha and Omega, but I'll do that like sometime next year. Give myself a break away from the author. So yeah, it's an interesting series. I'll give it that. It is a very interesting series. And I do love the fact that Mercy's very protective, of Jesse, very protective of this boy who looks like a 10-year-old, but he's obviously like older than that, because he's been in the Fey world for a long time. So it was an interesting book. I'll give it that. Like I said, I thought maybe it was him, the boy was him, but no, this is like I said, the narrator kept saying Hoel, and it looks like Joel, but I'm assuming the author maybe said like how to pronounce these characters' names. I don't know, but that was interesting. And then there was other characters that were introduced, and that was interesting too. There was like these other characters that were introduced, that they had something to do with, like basically trying to stop like this war as well. So she ended up getting like more characters come in and have them to where they want to stop this, because Uncle Mike, he showed up because he hasn't been there in a while. And I don't like the fact that Patricia Briggs basically wrote out Samuel. Like, you don't see him anymore. Samuel, like, the last thing she said was that he got married to Ariana, I think it's Ariana, something like that. The one character that he meets up with again after how many years of not being with her. And they got married. And she's like, oh, they went to Europe and got married. And I'm like, well, I would have liked to have seen that. And I'm like, Patricia Briggs basically like wrote his character out. And I'm like, I like Samuel. So I'm like, it's sad that I don't see him anymore, I liked him. And, even though like obviously he's not right for Mercy, I like Adam for Mercy. I love Adam. Like at the end of the story. She's in the kitchen making brownies, and obviously the wolves, like, they love the brownies. And he, you know, is behind her, and you could tell, like, he obviously wants to, you know, let's go to our room kind of thing, you know. I love that too. I love that too. But yeah, this one here was pretty good, pretty decent. Like I said, there was parts of it where I was like, oh, all they're doing is talking. Let's go. You know, I was just like, let's get to it. Let's get to it. So, this was interesting. I'll just say that it was interesting. And so, yeah, I'm going to take a break with the series and not do anything for July. Give myself a break, read something else. And then I will go into 3 other books from the Mercy Thompson series, the next 3, and do that for August. And then, like I said, September will be something different. And then, you know, October will be Mercy Thompson. I'm warm over here. That's why I have the fan on in my living room. My living room gets hot. It gets hot. I have to have, like, fans going, because it gets, like, in this area, because I have an old stove, and that thing will constantly be giving out heat, and it gets so warm in here. So in the summertime, when the summer hits, it gets so hot in here. Well, like, when I cook and stuff, I have to have a fan going in here, because I sweat balls cooking in here. So anyways, that's it for this vlog. I decided next year I will continue to do vlogs. I said I wasn't going to do them. I will continue to do vlogs, but I'm only going to do them maybe every other month, or when I feel like it. Maybe every other month, because there's some, maybe there might be some weeks where I don't have, like, a video. So I figured I would do a vlog then, you know. And I figured it's going to be random vlogs. I'm not going to stick to, like, a series or anything, because I get to the point where I'm like, oh my God, I'm burning myself out with this series, you know. And then I get bored and I don't want to listen to it anymore. So I'd rather just stick to, like, random books and stuff. It makes it easier for me. Because then I can decide, you know what, I'm not feeling this book and DNF it. And then I can move on to something else. I'd rather do that. So anyways, I'll let you guys go. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I'll see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.